Well, hello there, and welcome to Live Hang number 12. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D, and step into my laboratory. Here we are, and it turned into a rainy, cold spring day here. I've been trying to go fishing for the last week and a half, and every time I try, something comes up. So I guess I'm not supposed to be fishing just yet, but welcome aboard to Alan. Don Banker, going to talk about you in a minute, my friend. And Dale showed up as well. Dale is a proud owner of some amazing new anaglyph glasses that he 3D printed using some 60 millimeter, or are they 50s, filters his dad left him from the 1960s. And he has arguably one of the best set of anaglyph glasses on the planet at this particular point. And to answer your question, Raymond, the bourbon on the porch doesn't start until I move to the Northern Command in mid-June, at which point all bets are off. And Knob Creek is going to see its stock take a precipitous leap at that time. Welcome aboard, Raymond, and inhabit Mars. And Pat's in. Hi, Pat. And by golly, what a bunch of weirdos. I'm going to have to think up a good graphic for the live hang. Wonderful World of Weirdos. Something like that. Maybe use the Cinderella's Castle, like the Wonderful World of Disney, if you remember that. Some of you old people out there. Dale, I do have a photo of them, but in order to show them, I have to prep before the show to do so, because I have to add it into the scenes and the sources and a bunch of technical stuff to do, so I can just show you a picture. So, sorry, I won't be able to do that tonight. And Ian is here. Hello, my friend. Good to see you. As some of you probably know, or maybe you don't, I had an encounter with whistle pigs this week. They're nearly as bad as aliens. Alfie Joe Bob just showed up. How you doing? Yeah, and I believe him, my friend, the number one weirdo in Texas, if you don't count my oldest son down there in Denton, who has the number one Green Days band in Texas. And Martin's in the house, too. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you are well, too. I am doing great. Whistle pigs. Some of you from the South may know what those are. But that's what we call groundhogs or woodchucks down south, whistle pigs, because they're just like a prairie dog. In fact, they're related to the prairie dogs. Oh my goodness. Good day. Australia made it. How you doing, my friend? Man from all over the planet. But yeah, they'll stand up out in a field of grass and stand straight up. Some are 3 feet tall. They get big. And they go, and they stand up. And, well, the problem with those suckers are they like to make their burrows next to your house, next to your foundations. And that can weaken the walls and cause your foundations to crack and give in. And, Alfie Joe Bob's 20 miles from Denton. Well, you should be able to hear my son when he plays. He's got an amp that goes to 11. Some of you will know what that means. But, so I was bound and determined. Dodd's picturing Bill Murray. And I wish I had Bill Murray's money and his good looks. So they're in there grinding away at my foundation. One burrow right next to the house, another tunnel about 5 feet away, and then a third tunnel outside the fence on a hillside. So I did my due diligence. I'm going to get rid of them. And so I got 4 gallons of ammonia. I didn't want to kill them. And a whole quart of cayenne pepper. Hi, Olga. Glad you made it. That was the sound of a whistle pig that I was making. And so I got my have-a-heart trap out, a big one, and placed it in the outside the fence hole and camouflaged it, set it up. A little bit of work to get it all dug in. Hey, planetary protector. Good to have you, my friend. And then I went in and I poured 4 gallons of ammonia down the hole right next to the foundations. Boy, is that nasty stuff. And I poured a quart of cayenne pepper in the other hole, and I blew it down the hole with a leaf blower. Man, oh man, does that stuff burn. You always get a little blowback. And man, there isn't a thing in the world that can survive that kind of onslaught. I figured they'd come running out that third hole and run right into the trap, and I got them. No such luck. They must have known something was up, because there was nothing, and nothing ever came out. 2 days I waited, nothing ever came out. So maybe there was a 4th entrance I didn't know about. I looked around, tried to find it, didn't find it. So I eventually, yesterday, went out and collected everything and got busy with a spade and filled in. Old boysenberry Dracula is here. Good to see you there, Dracula. And well, we all know that Dracula sucks, right? And and you're welcome. I'm happy to do the work. And I've got some really cool news for you as soon as I get done talking about my whistle pigs. They didn't show up, so I spent a couple hours shoveling in those holes and ramming dirt down them and raking it out so it looked nice. And so I'm just waiting to see if they found a way back into the warren and dig their way back out of the place. And if they do, then all bets are off. And then I'm going to get gopher bombs. And those are the big guns. I like those, throw them down the holes, and they pour out just a truckload of carbon monoxide. And it is lethal. But I'm done messing around. So if they come back, they're getting the gopher bombs. And I'll have a report to make about that. Actually, about 3 or 4 days after the fact. Because if I got them, my nose is going to know I got them. Let me put it that way. Pour petrol down the hole, throw a match in. Oh, my golly. Yeah, I think my wife would never forgive me if I burnt down the house. And hey, Martin, you don't have to agree too quick on Dracula. Hey, Granny 43 Pigtail. It's always better when you come into the house. So nice to see you. So, hey, let me tell you something very, very cool that my buddy Don Banker, who's here tonight, discovered. And that is, and I'm going to try to have pictures ready to show you next time. He discovered that Neville Thompson's gigamacros of the left and right mass cams and nav cams and has cams can be matched up to make stereo pairs. And you can actually sync the images online so everything lines up, and then do a screen cap. And there you go. Now, first of all, he's my hero. I'm very, very impressed, Don, that you figured this out. And I wish that I'd figured it out and that I could claim it and be a big shot. But my friend, you are my hero, and you are the big shot tonight. Well done, sir. Very well done indeed. And you know what this means, folks? I may do little bit of a tutorial on that, maybe next week. I hope. I'm headed up to the Northern Command next week for a week, and I'm doing my best to get OBS on my laptop and make OBS work through the cloud so I can do a live hang from the Northern Command. Because it's a lot of trouble to schlep my entire rig and studio up to Maine, which I will do when I go up there for sure in the middle of June. But if I can do it with a laptop, cool. Anyway, back to Don and his amazing discovery. What this means to any of you who are interested is that all of you can easily do X3D anomalies of your own. Piece of cake. I'll even share the software with you. Most of you know about it, Stereo Photo Maker. It's a free download, doesn't cost a cent, super easy to use, super intuitive. Let me catch on some of these messages. Well, no, they better not be in the attic. They didn't bust through. We got a cement wall down there. They'd have to really chew hard to get through that. And yeah, well, Don, that's the ticket. See, all of you, if you're interested, can find and process your own X3D images using this method. Super easy, super fun, and scads and scads and scads of crystal clear NEV-T gigamacros to choose from. This is the dawn of a new age. Now, and you know, you can send them to me, you can send them to Alan, you can send them to Jimmy Roberts, whoever's doing X3D, if you want us to put them on the channel, if they meet our standards. I'm kind of a grumpy old man when it comes to standards, as Alan will attest. Alan's a good guy. He's so generous with his knowledge of Photoshop, and I appreciate you, my friend. And but I hold the line on my standards because I went through 7 years of trying to make stereo accessible to everyone in the Mars anomaly community. Everything I published was in what's called left, right, left, LRL, which means your parallel views are the first two, and then your X3D is 2 and 3. It's 3 images in a row. And then I also published anaglyph, a lot of extra work. And then for years, I gave away free anaglyph glasses. Just send me at the time, send me a postpaid first class envelope, and I'd send you a pair of anaglyph glasses. And all that time, in 7 years' time, I had maybe a dozen takers. And the LRL format was just too small. Didn't give you enough detail. And parallel sucks for that reason, because the images have to be small in order for you to free view them. You can view them with, if you buy glasses and stuff, but who wants to do that? Really, seriously. And quick answer for Boysenberry Dracula. You know, I get the impression that from the artifacts that I've found over the years, that the civilization that was destroyed in the nuclear attack was an advanced, kind of a steampunk civilization, very industrial. And the prior civilization to that was kind of like a Neolithic age. They were absolute masters of stone. And of course, that ability bled over into the industrial age, I believe, because, boy, they did whatever they wanted with stone on a grand scale, much as the ancient races did down in Peru at Sacsayhuaman and Pumapunku and some of the other megalithic sites. Really quite amazing. So they were pretty advanced, but I believe there were other civilizations as well that were far more advanced and didn't have necessarily the type of infrastructure that could survive the overwhelmingly massive nuclear attack that wiped the planet out. And so what's left are the stone and the mud fossil machines and some of the other stuff. So, and yeah, that is cool. You can zoom on these X3Ds, Donna's saying. And anyway, I'm going to hopefully get something together along those lines sometime in the very near future. And now, I'm going to defend myself on something here. And yeah, that's a good point. They were not advanced enough to stop being destroyed. And guess what? Neither are we. We're just as vulnerable. Things can change in a heartbeat, folks. We're overdue for a pole shift. We're overdue for the supervolcano at Yellowstone to blow its top. Way overdue. And that's bulged 7 or 8 inches over the last couple of years. We're overdue for, a biochemical attack, nuclear attack. You got crazy little goblins like that guy in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, could launch a nuclear missile just because he woke up with a headache or a stuffy nose. So trust me, things can change in a moment. And where would we be 1,000 years from now, let alone 150, 250? What's going to be left? All of our cities, all of our roadways, all of our stuff we're so proud of, our computers and our cell phones, and everything will just be dust. And the only thing left will be things made of stone and things that perchance were turned into mud fossils or were bulky enough to weather millennia of corrosion and erosion. Let me just read a couple notes here. And yeah, you're right, Inhabit Mars. We have seen both mechanical and some kind of electronic-looking parts. And fact of the matter is, yeah, and coronal mass ejection, you're absolutely right, Don. We could get a kill shot from the sun when that roulette wheel spins a certain way, and boom, we're toast, literally toast. In fact, in Revelation, it says that the sun in those days will grow so hot that it'll just burn people up. That sounds like a CME to me, doesn't it? So, the fact of the matter is, I believe that the ancient Martians were us. That there were advanced civilizations on Earth that migrated to Mars and other planets and other moons and other solar systems. That we were starfaring species. And whatever was about to wipe out Mars, some of the elites got wind of it, and they went kaboom and zipped on over to Earth and started Sumerian civilizations, Egyptian civilizations, and don't forget the Ramayana civilization as depicted in the epic of the same name and in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, who had extremely advanced technology, well beyond our own. So, well, and you might be right, Alan, and unfortunately I believe you will be right, is that the idiots in government are the ones who are going to screw everything up. Because those suckers are certifiably not only crazy, but truly evil. And yes, Stinnett Country Music. Hey, you changed your name, man. Is anything we do relevant? Yes. Yes. Love. Kindness. Learning to be at one with the Spirit, whatever you call that name. That's relevant because you understand, folks. We are eternal souls, and as such, Now, I understand some of you may not believe that, and that's fine. I'm not here to foist my beliefs on anybody. I'm just going to share with you what I believe, and that is that we're eternal souls, and as such, we are incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable. We are enslaved to one side of the spirit or the other. Each person has to make up their own mind about which side they want to be on. But yeah, everything we do here is relevant because you know why? We are functioning, holographic, sentient units. We are literally the eyes and the ears and the fingertips and the hearts of God. And this is how God experiences this dense reality. You see, it's my opinion, and that's all it is an opinion, that I think if I were God, and I'm not, that I would want to, after I created everything, I would want to experience absolutely everything I possibly could. Every possible outcome, every possible reality. And so I'd make it multidimensional. And I would make it eternal. And I would make it with no end in terms of the expanse of it. And then when I thought I had enough experience, I wouldn't end it. I'd turn into something else with even greater needs. But who knows? So, I wonder if all the stuff in our solar system is from our culture, or from one culture. You know, boysenberry, it probably is. Except to say that on the moon there are definitely structures and operations and bases from other races. I suspect we'll find the same anywhere we go, that territory is disputed. We may have to fight for it. And isn't that silly? Isn't that silly? If you get to the point where you understand zero-point energy and where you understand the physics involved with quantum mechanics, with bilocation, with non-locality, there's a spiritual component to that. And if you read quantum physics, you'll discover that that's quite the case. There's a spiritual component to that. It's like, what am I thinking of? Haven't seen your, it's not Heisenberg's cat. It'll come to me in a minute, or one of you will help me out here. But there's a cat in a box in your car trunk, and the cat is either alive or dead. And you don't know until you open the box. And your own thoughts about it determine what that reality is, what manifests. Anyway, we don't need to get all multidimensional and metaphysical here. High-level mystic, I don't know about. But, first of all, most of you out there tonight are weirdos, right? You wouldn't be here otherwise. This is such a strange niche within a niche, right? I mean, X3D, Mars anomalies, that's weird anyway. Who watches stuff like that except weirdos? And then to learn X3D and to step into my Renaissance laboratory once a week and see and listen to all the weird stuff I have to ramble on about. Yeah, you're certifiably weird, and I love you for it. And so, yes, many of you, I've spent my lifetime in mystical pursuits. I'm not going to go into detail now, but I've studied in India, and I've studied other places as well. A wide range of things. And I'm not bragging about it. I'm just saying, there's a path that I took that brought me to where I am now. And let me read a couple more contents. Surviving death, huh, Don? Yes, it is. Excellent. There's another one by Dr. Martin Sabam. In the late 1980s, he wrote a best-selling book called Recollections of Death. Now, he's a cardiovascular surgeon. And he got interested in the near-death experiences that so many of his patients were having, because they would die on the table and they'd bring them back. Or they'd put them on a heart machine, put them in a coma, and they'd leave their bodies and, have these experiences. So he began a very systematic and scientific survey of several thousand of these NDEs, near-death experiences, that his patients had. And this book is staggering. You read this book, you will never fear death again. There are other things that you can do to take away the fear of death. I'm not going to go into that tonight, because there we definitely get spiritual. But Schrodinger's cat, God bless you, Ian, Schrodinger's cat. I always think of Schroeder playing the piano in Peanuts. Schrodinger's cat. That's how I'll remember it. I'll remember Schroeder playing his piano with a dead cat on the piano. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And Inhabit Mars was right behind you with the answer. And Don is weirdo number 3. You're all proud weirdos, aren't you, Ian? And boysenberry, that's okay. Whatever blows your skirt up, man. The fact of the matter is you're here. And you seem to be understanding what's going on. So you're in the right place. And, I don't care what anybody does. For crying out loud, I was a professional musician all my life. You think I didn't experiment with every kind of substance that was out there? Because that was the culture I grew up in the late 60s. I began performing in the 60s, and from then on. And been there, done that. And at some point you come out the other end, because you've been there, done that. It's boring. And you begin to find other things. And I know it's a cliche, but seriously, you can have way more intense experiences through meditation and prayer, and through lucid dreaming, and through some of the other studies that are available to you. But that's just fine. Mars, a second Genesis. Okay, I'll give you a real quick background. What instrument did I play? First of all, I want to preface everything by saying I'm nobody. And I don't have any degrees. I really don't have any right to be talking to you as if I know anything at all, because I never finished college, because I completed what I came there to do, and that was to perform. I was a professional tuba player and bass player all my life, and I left the New England Conservatory of Music at the age of going on 20, because I became the youngest member of the Boston Symphony Orchestra and Boston Pops, and traveled, recorded, played with them for some time, and decided I didn't want to play classical, so I branched off into jazz, and became one of the few jazz tuba players in existence. I've got albums, recordings and stuff all over the place. No great shakes. It's the kind of music you guys probably wouldn't dig at all. I'm a jazz player. I like, when I'm playing bass, the best thing in the world is to swing. And if you ain't a musician, you will never understand what I just said. But to swing is like the whole reason you're born as a musician. But here's the thing. When I started to fly, when I started working on my private license almost 50 years ago, and I caught on right away to the three-dimensional environment required, the multitasking required in flying, because it's identical to what you do when you play music. A little light bulb went on. I went, flitter. Not only can I do this, I'm going to be damn good at it. And then I realized that same talent that I had worked so many hundreds of thousands of hours of practice growing up to develop, I could apply to anything. So I became a skill junkie. And for the rest of my life from that point on, I lived at least 2 and sometimes 4 parallel lives simultaneously. And so I was involved as a professional pilot. I was involved as an amateur archaeologist and 3D documentarian on historic digs in the Middle East. I became an adept in several different areas. I researched pyramids from then until now, and a host of other things. I'm not trying to, show you all the feathers in my bonnet. I'm just saying that once I discovered that I could apply this multitasking to anything I wanted to do, I went nuts. And so eventually at some point, all these skill sets kind of came together when I made it my purpose to go out and debunk Mars anomalies. I thought, this is a piece of cake. I'm going to go on Google Mars, and I'll have this toast in 5 minutes, because I know what archaeological ruins look like. I've been knee-deep in them, and I've looked at them from the sky. And I know what non-fractal items look like from my time when I was working for the government. We don't want to talk about that. I'm no longer affiliated with them, except as a free-range slave, paying taxes and wearing a diaper on my face when I go out. But that aside, I think some of you have heard me say before, I got on Google Mars, and within 15 minutes I'd found archaeological ruins. Beyond a doubt. Absolutely beyond a doubt. Knocked me on my butt. So I got into it big time. And I won't describe the gradual evolution that led me to where I am now, except to say that my particular viewpoint right now is that I'm retired and can invest the time I want to in this weird pursuit. And my skill set has all come together so that I can find non-fractal anomalies on Mars and present them to you in X3D stereo. Ta-da! And that's why I'm here. The end. Okay, that's enough talk. Let me let you look at a picture. Okay? I'm going to click something on here if I can figure out how to do it. There we go. And there we go. Here it comes. Now, while you're looking at this, I'm going to read some of these questions. Yeah, jazz is where it's at. And yeah, many of you have PhDs in life in general. And I understand that ayahuasca is quite an experience. Graham Hancock has done that and written about it. Hey, Randall, thanks for coming in. Put your quarter in. Thank you, sir. And Don, by the way, I started out on cello. I'd played cello from 4th grade until I was 15 in junior high school. Realized the guys in the back row were having all the fun, so I switched it over to tuba. Took all my cello experience to there. I was what they called a prodigy on the cello. Big deal. That and a dime will get you a glass of water. But I was able to transfer that knowledge to the tuba, and of course nobody had done that at that point except for Harvey Phillips, and so I took off like a scalded monkey. And Don is asking, was it a 3-letter agency? No, I worked for Space, S-P-A-C-E, self-paced Army cognition education, I believe it was. Then I went over to LASO, Lead Army Integration Strategic Office. Then I went over to TMDE, Technical Maintenance and Design Engineering, and edited and helped write, to a certain extent, a 12,500-page technical manual on classified weapons, and digitized it. And we're going to get to Mars anomalies in just a minute. Trumped Up made it. Good to see you, my man. And that's nice of you to say, Juan Carlos. And, may I say it takes one to know one? And I'm going to explain this picture in just a minute. I'm just trying to catch up here because you guys are really laying out the comments tonight. Juan Carlos is just a lawyer. Boy, you got to study your buns off and pass the bar for that. And being a painter, wow, that's such a left brain thing. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to be into. I was never very good at that kind of art. I was a professional stained glass artist for about 30 years. I have windows, and I did historic stained glass, restoration, Tiffany's, Lafarge, and I'm in churches all over the country. Those are my gravestones, I say. That's what people will see after I'm long gone. Those will be bringing beauty to people. Martin, it's okay if people want to disrupt. That just shows the smallness of spirit, and they just reveal themselves to us. And, one day they'll wake up. Okay, now let me tell you what this picture is all about. You see, when I find an anomaly and I cannot locate a corresponding stereo image, a stereo pair, then I'm forced to create the other image myself. And that's done in a number of different ways. Now, this image, some of you may be familiar with Stereo Photo Maker, and this is called the clone brush technique. This image was entirely done with the clone brush technique. And it's a bit like painting. It's very meticulous. It takes quite a while. And it comes a pretty good 3D. That's pretty good. But then there's another technique that we use. And take a look at this one. This is one I did this week. You see, I do this this is my fun, and this is my therapy, and this is how I keep my chops up for MarsX3D. And this has been a learning curve of a couple of years. I'm getting pretty good at it, but there's still room for improvement, believe me. So this was done with depth mapping, where I take the image into Photoshop and I make judgments based on light and shadow and angles, various other things. And I assign grayscale to those things. Occasionally I'll assign gradients. And then I combine those. There are a couple programs that'll do that. Stereo Photo Maker will do it. I like to use 3D Combine Pro. It does a real good job. And you end up with some pretty good 3D. Okay, Mars, the second Genesis, said he tried the clone brush and all it did was copy the left image onto the right. Okay, here's what you're doing. Wrong, if there is such a thing. And that is that imagine, this is a little bit technical. I'll keep it as short and as uncomplicated as possible. Imagine the image you're looking at is a deck of cards. There are 52 layers. And each of those layers represents a point on the lines of parallax. Now, the lines of parallax are just lines that, if you can imagine drawing from the center of your eyes and converging in the distance. Kind of like these rows of wheat do. See how they converge? Parallel lines converge. That's parallax. And so you take your left and right arrow in X3D down at the bottom in Serial Photomaker, and you hold down Shift and you right-click your mouse, and a circle will appear. And that circle will be somewhere on the planes, on the lines of parallax. Now, they recommend that you start out in the background first. So a good place to start is run it down to 44. Now, in X3D, positive numbers are distance, negative numbers are up close. Run it to about 44 and just start painting whatever's in the distance, whether it's the sky or the clouds, and they'll take their place. And then come forward 2 clicks. Hold down the Shift, come forward 2. For now, just hit the left arrow and it'll come forward 4 automatically. Paint your next layer and figure out what the layers are and just come forward that way. Then you can go back and do 2 clicks from the beginning. In other words, say your first, well, this is getting technical. I don't want to get real technical because it's not going to be very interesting to some of you. And yeah, right brain, you're right. It's all right brain stuff. And yeah, it reminds you of your old Viewmaster, which my dad helped develop. He developed the TrueView viewer back in the late 30s or the 40s into the 50s. They were very popular. And then when that company folded, GAF bought the rights, turned it into the Viewmaster. Ta-da! Boysenberry saying we're having a quick, salty life on Earth for the soul to take in change and contrast to the max. Yeah, we're in a pretty primitive situation here. And that's why love and kindness is so important, because it lifts you out of all this stuff. And along with that goes forgiveness. Being able to forgive anybody of anything, that's an amazing superpower. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. Why does it have an eye in its snout? I don't know. So anyway, before I leave this image, I took this image once I'd done all the depth mapping, went in there with Stereo Photomaker with the clone brush, and I gave a little bit of presence and depth to those Mattis cumulus up in the sky. And I can go around and I can do like real tiny fine tuning. I can go into things you can't even see on the mountain and make them a bit more three-dimensional, outcroppings. Your eye doesn't detect them, but the net result is that it looks a lot more real. Okay, so we're going to get to Mars anomalies in just a second here. Here's something I did just about an hour and a half ago. It's called Space Happy. And this is a coloring book from the 1950s, as you can probably tell. And believe it or not, this one was really challenging. I won't go into the details. It's not, that big a deal. Yeah, I used my viewfinder for hours too. And tell you a quick story. I was 3 years old. I was at my grandmother's house, and I saw a brown and cream Bakelite box up on the mantle that I hadn't seen before. So I climbed up there. I pushed the chair, my grandfather's easy chair over there. I climbed up on that. That was a big deal because I was so small. Climbed all the way up, stood on the top, grabbed that box and brought it down, opened it up. There were a pair of goggles, steal the light goggles in there, and little silver and red boxes filled with 35 millimeter film. Well, I was always, curious little guy, so I figured out how to feed the film into the sprockets. And I held it up to the light, and the very first thing I saw in my life that was on film, 3D, was Sally Rand and her bubble dance. Well, you could have knocked my socks off. And wasn't sure why that lady didn't have clothes on, but I'm pretty sure I kind of liked it. No offense to you ladies out there. And so I've been into 3D ever since. So anyway, Space Happy, a vintage comic book. That's the kind of stuff I grew up with. Everybody wanted space stuff in the 50s. I got a space helmet once for Christmas when I was, 7 or 8. Boy, that was the coolest thing. We were real spacemen running around the house, shooting the fire out of each other. Okay, so let's get going here. We've got enough people in the house, and we're going to take a look at a thing I call hidden mech. Something my friend Laszlo Shabalix found from Neville Thompson's Gigamacro of Percy 53 through 56. And now you can see this is a close-in photo, isn't it? There doesn't look like there's anything there, really, just rocks. But what we're looking at is that little bitty sucker in the background. And what is it? This is what's inside that target. Look at what's poking out behind the right side of that rock. Is that another rock? I don't think so. Major Matt Mason. And don't forget, Scott McCloud, Space Ranger. Very cool little piece of machinery poking out beside the rock. Oh, why don't they just drive the sucker over there and have a look? But no. So now we're going to, let's see, where are we anyway? Now we're going to go over to Percy 62. This is something Terry Burnett put up this week. I thought I'd go in there, and then I found a couple of other things. And by the way, I'm giving an alert to Muhammad if you're in the audience tonight, my friend. I saw that you posted it on our MarsX3D site on Facebook, and I actually did find these a week ago. I don't care who posts them or who gets credit for them. There's so many eyes on this, but I wanted you to know that had I seen your post today before I finished compositing on these images, I would have credited you with what I found inside the blue box. But let's zoom in on this pig in a blanket that my friend Terry Burnett came up with. Man, that's an odd looking deal, isn't it? So is that a cloth blanket? I don't think so. I think it's a formation. But then look at the, you know what? Let me try something. Let me just try something. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you, can you see my cursor? There's about a 15-20 second delay, so I'm going to wait and see. But if someone say yes, you can see my cursor. If you can see my cursor. No? Okay, I don't think anybody's seeing my cursor. Oh. Okay. Well, I guess if you can't see my cursor, then I'll just turn it off. Because it doesn't appear to be showing up for you. Okay. Turning it off. Well, you look at down the left front side of that rock. Thank you, Alan. The answer is no. Even though I did the right thing, supposedly. You can see letters that kind of go down the side on the left. Okay, good nose. A whole bunch of nose all at once. Sounds like my ex-wife. And then look at that rear left corner. It does look like a rolled up tarp, doesn't it? It does. And I'm just wondering what geological process would create something like this. Now, I'm not saying this is a definite anomaly, but it's pretty suspicious. And if you look at the left rear corner, That almost looks kind of like a gear or a little bit of machinery there sticking out. Yeah, Don, there's, some of what you're seeing there. What I'm doing is I'm bringing out what's actually in the picture. And I brighten it. I don't play with the image a whole lot, but I do brighten it considerably because most of this stuff looks pretty dull. It looks like it has a film of gray over it. And when you're doing 3D, you need something bright that pops. And so I brighten the pictures up to get rid of the shadows. And so here's what was inside the blue box. These are some pretty cool things here. Let's start with the block, the split block on the right. Definitely man-made, so to speak. I don't know that anyone has compiled all the Mars letters. I had a discussion with Jimmy after our hang Sunday to start collating the anomalies, like letters, like carvings, like structures, like machines, things of that nature. But anyway, look at this block in front. Trapezoidal block split down the side and split across the middle top. But then now look at this left side. You see those 3 rectangles at an angle, stacked one above another? Would someone please explain to me how a rock could erode that way? And now let's move over to that little, it looks like a dice, doesn't it? A little cube with 2 dots in the corner. What is that all about? I don't know. Ain't natural, is it? Okay, now look in the back, too. Look at those right angles. Look at that dished out rock. We all know there are just tons and tons of anomalies that Percy is picking up. There are just so many. And yeah, it looks like a die, doesn't it? Don, you wise ass, aren't you? They erode that way when you machine them. Well, exactly so. But you guys, there's so many anomalies. There's so many. Okay, now look at this one. Here's one that my friend Laszlo Shabalix found. This is a gigapan by Keith Laney, the world's grumpiest image processor. And he found what he's calling a spoon, and it's down there inside the target. Now, when I put this up in the episode Friday, all the links will be there. And if you're at all interested in anomalies, go to that link. This thing, there must be 50 anomalies in this picture alone, and it's just a part of the image. They're everywhere in this one. And I just focus on the stuff that kind of catches my attention, kind of rings my chimes a little bit. So here's what's inside the target. Isn't that cool? Okay, and I'm gonna put a square around it. There you go. See that? Now, right in the front, there's that really obvious flat piece with 90-degree angles on it, and that nice French curve on the top. I used to know a girl like that. But now looking just in back of it, there's a great big old serving spoon sitting there. At least that's what it looks like, right? Okay, now I'm going to draw some arrows and point out a couple other things here. One on the left. Look at all that framework. And to the left of that arrow is another piece that looks like a machine. That center arrow, that piece it's pointing to looks like a piece of machined metal. And then that right arrow, well, that might be carving. I don't know. Could be. But let me draw a few more arrows here, okay? And Don, this saw is, you know what? I forgot to put it in. Well, I guess I suck. I can't believe I left the saw number out. Oh well, too late now. Oh, senior moments catching up with me again. Doing too much work too late into the night. Okay, look at this. Now, I'm going to go back, now that I pointed that out. I'm going to go back. Keep in mind where those arrows are pointing. Okay, and look at those two objects in the corner. Now, if your screen is big enough, you'll be able to see lines of holes on the one in front and on the one in back, with lots of right angles happening. That's cool. Does kind of look like a box cutter, doesn't it, in Avid Mars? And yeah, Martin, that's kind of my thoughts too. Kind of like a scrapyard. Or like my friend Will Farrar. At least I still think he's my friend. He doesn't answer my emails. He doesn't write. He doesn't call. He always called it Uncle Jake's junkyard. But yeah, Don, I mean, the ground is just absolutely covered with anomalies. And if you go in there, you'll find a whole bunch yourself. No rocks there. No rocks there, right, Martin? Okay, so here's one. Another Terry Burnett special. Look at that Martian landscape receding into the background and that big blue sky. And there's always some bozo out there who says, that's taken on Devon Island, and oh, that's in Arizona, or that's wherever. You know, it's like, I have a technical term for people who say that, and that is bite me. They obviously haven't even bothered to look at the data. I mean, how many are there? Well over 1 million data files that have been downloaded so far by NASA. And what have you got to say about NASA? Hey, Dale, thanks for stopping by. Say nighty-night to the grandkids. Hope to see you next week. But there's just so much data. To think that they're taking it here on Earth is just asinine. So anyway, look at this thing that Terry found. Yeah, and of course we are, Don. These are pieces of, I think, sometimes people, animals, to say nothing of their artifacts. Look at this thing. Now, I don't know if that's a casket. That's what Terry calls it. And that's okay. He can call it anything you want it because he found it. But look at the regular shape and look at those two rings coming out the front side. And that line on top. That's a very interesting piece of something. And for our last little bit, there's a gal there. This is the gal they're called Martian, a girl Martian, who pointed this out. And I always try to give everybody credit, even if they have goofy names. I mean, come on. What is the big deal about having avatar names online? I don't get it. Why are you so insecure? Why don't you just tell us your name? You know, if you're going to point it out, then do something with it. Extract it, process it, present it, analyze it, talk about it, start a channel, post on Facebook, do something. So many of these people are dilettantes, you know, they'll find something, and it's cool that they find stuff. I love that. But then that's it. So anyway, take a look at what Girl Martian found here. I'm calling it a wand. But truth be told, it looks like a pirate cannon, doesn't it? And it's actually pretty long. I would say it's at least 4 feet long. And we've seen other things like that. I should have put together, and I may yet do that, put together some other items that look like that. I like to do that sometimes just to, you know, because I've got thousands and thousands of images in my head that I've looked at. And they're all in my head, and most of you guys don't have that background because you're just not crazy like me and spend all your time doing this. But I find stuff all the time. I think, oh, this looks just like that one over there and this one over here. And gosh, there's 6 of these that look just like this one. And there's a lot of similarity with what's going on Mars. So anyway, here I am back again. Oh, I know how you starve to look at my lovely face, how you suffer, and I suffer along with you because I love looking at myself. Well, not really. I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, and I thought, holy smokes, what happened? I'm 18 inside, and look what happened to this guy. Oh, it's relentless, isn't it? That old devil time. And Raymond is asking, what Analyst Notebook download format do you choose for your X3D image processing? QuickBook formats are not science quality data. Well, before I tell you that, I'm going to give a huge shout out and thank you to my friend Alan Walker at MarsX3D Genesis. And by the way, if you haven't been over there, he restarted his channel after a mysterious absence. That's all I'll say about it. And he has been a tremendous help to me, and he taught me how to extract the .img files and the .dat, the image in the DAT files, and process them, and you end up with these beautiful high-resolution images. So that's what I use nowadays. Now, if there are stereo images available, I will download them and process them the same way. Very often the nav cams, sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. Oh, I'm gorgeous, huh? Okay, Jennifer, it's time for you for a visit to the optometrist. That's sweet of you. To convert IMGs to PNG format, image to ping by Bjorn Jensen. Command line, not GUI. Well, that's very interesting, Raymond. I hope I can remember that and write that down. But you know, the method that Alan taught me is really pretty cool. It doesn't take very long, and it's not that hard once you get the hang of it. Conch shell, huh? Okay. But so that's what I prefer doing nowadays. And of course, when you're doing a mass cam, you have the 34 millimeter on the right mass cam, and then you have the 100 millimeter on the left mass cam. And that 100 millimeter, because it's wide angle, is much less resolution when you blow it up. So finding something that's close enough to the right mass cam so it'll register well in the left mass cam is oftentimes a problem. But here's what I do. I will download both of them, process both of them, the image and DAT files, and then I cut out and size the 100 millimeter to match the 34 millimeter. And that way I get very accurate parallax. It's absolutely correct parallax. But the left image, which is actually the right in X3D, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just call it the left image, is usually badly out of focus because of that lack of resolution. Yeah, Raymond. Well, buddy, you're an engineer. All that stuff makes sense to you. I'm just a aging musician who can barely figure out how to use my cell phone. But that's an excellent resource, and thank you for sharing that with us. Tom Stein's content, PDS Geosciences Node Community. Worth checking it out. And yeah, I do use Photoshop to process those images. I use Photoshop. I use Photoshop 3D Combine, Stereo Photo Maker, Faststone, Topaz Adjust, a couple of others. And it's a process I go through, but I don't materially change the image. What I do is I adjust the contrast, of course, and do my best to clarify the anomaly without falsifying it. It's called pixel integrity. You only bring out what's actually there, not what you wish was there, not what you hope is there, not what you want to put there so people will click on your channel and you make lots of YouTube bucks, which is why I'm poor in terms of YouTube. See you later, Martin. Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate that. So anyway, so what I'll do with that fuzzy left image is I'll go into Stereo Photo Maker and I'll use the clone brush technique to clean up the left image. Well, let's see now. Yeah, the left image. And so that I can put the items on the proper plane of parallax. So everything's absolutely accurate. And in fact, I can clear up the whole picture that way. And it looks pretty good. But you got to get familiar with the clone brush technique. Now, any of you who are interested in that, check out, there's a book called 2D to 3D Conversion in Stereo Photo Maker, which is available on Amazon. It's like $2 or $3. A little spiral around book. And it'll teach you a number of different techniques. Really good book. That's what I used to get started. And you'll be doing 3D images before the end of the day. It won't even take you 45 minutes to read the whole book. Well, Don, your answer does a dodge and burn tool change the pixel integrity? I have a feeling it does somewhat. Absolutely. If you overuse it, if you get rambunctious and undisciplined with them, yep, it changes stuff. So what I do, I generally go, of course for some reason I have very high resolution with my eyes on the computer, but typically I'll go in at high magnification and I'll work with the pixels. For example, if I want to bring out the dark pixels, I'll go in until I can see the pixels and I'll just work with those. I won't slop over to anything else. I'll just work with them. I'll do a little bit at a time. I usually have it set at, 5%, which is almost nothing. Just a little touch. And I'll back out and have a look at it. Go back in, need a little more. Yeah, do a little more. But same with the whites or the brights or the midtones or the shadows. And there are a number of different ways to address that in Photoshop without using the dodge and burn tools, which Alan has been kind enough to tutor me on. Thank you, Alan. Robert, you haven't missed too much. Well, maybe you have. I don't know. Yeah, if you overburn or you overdodge, it looks like you've overburned and overdodged. And you start getting images. I won't say her name, but there's a lady who has a Facebook page. And she's a nice lady, and she a very fine graphic artist. But she gets a little enthusiastic with the dodge and the burn. And you can see that. And sometimes I've gone in to replicate some of her anomalies in 3D, and I get there and I realize it's not an anomaly at all. You know, she got a little too busy. Oh, Martin, you're still here. Okay. But yeah, Inhabit Mars, you're absolutely right. You have to be so judicious with the use of Photoshop, especially the dodge and burn. You got to toe the line with that one, man. You can't mess around. It's got to be real pixel integrity. And Robert, yeah, we're always available on the replay, and sometimes I've been led to understand it's better the second time around. But primarily what I do is I'll bump up the color a little bit. I'll warm the image up a little. I'll do a curve adjustment of the contrast extremes like Alan showed me. And I'll brighten. I'll use an overall adjustment in Topaz Adjust, and I want the image to pop. I want it to look clean and clear and real, but I need it to pop for the 3D. You don't need that so much with the 2D, but for the 3D, yeah, you definitely, trust me, I've been doing this all my life, so just believe me on that one. Well, you know, for me, Photoshop is kind of spendy, right? I think I spend at this point $12 a month, and it's all cloud, and you just download it and you work. And they give you the entire Adobe Creative core with that. You know, you get all kinds of stuff with that, like Lightroom and other good things like that. I'm just readjusting here. And so it's, for me, because it's so essential to my work, I'm quite willing to make the expenditure so that I have that available to me. Yeah, there's, you know, as far as the glyphs go, we've found mathematical representations, specifically the Pythagorean triangle, right angle triangle. I found, I think, 4 of those very deeply and clearly incised on a rock. We found other glyphs. I've also found Sanskrit symbols. We've found Arabic letters and numbers. I have one that side of a cliff next to a cave. It says Iraq 13 with an Air Force star carved in the cliff. Can anybody say boots on the ground, 20 and back? I don't know. Well, here's the thing, Raymond, contaminating Mars with radioactive waste products. If you read Dr. John Brandenburg's book, Evidence of a Nuclear Catastrophe on Mars, and this is a man who's super highly qualified. He knows what he's talking about. He says the isotopes xenon 129 and krypton 80 are still resonating in the atmosphere. And those, for the most part, only occur as a result of nuclear fusion. And so Mars was very heavily irradiated and still is. And again, this is why, yeah, and I've seen Greek letters there too, Robert, you're exactly right. This is exactly why the bulk of the civilizations, with an S, have migrated underground. That's where the water is. That's where your protection is from the radiation, the cosmic rays, that type of thing. And it's a little easier to control your environment. Yeah, I love Jimmy Roberts' channel too. I wish he produced more. Well, we're working on that. And I want to remind you guys before we wrap things up here that come on over to MarsFam.net. MarsFam, MarsFam, like MarsFamily.net. Join up there. This is where the adults have a conversation. It's growing. We just started it. It's growing. People are posting there. And it promises to be a pretty cool thing. And of course, Jimmy and myself and Chris are the administrators. Jimmy created the website. Chris and I are the co-administrators with him. And I believe Neil Spence is coming on board too. And the question is, did they nuke themselves or did someone else? Well, someone else did. They were bombed from orbit. You'd have to read Dr. Brandenburg's book to get the full import of what he's saying and why he says what he does. But the evidence is very clear cut. They were bombed from orbit. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Greeks were aliens. I don't know. But you know what, folks? It's about that time. Time for me to wrap it up. Thank each and every one of you for stopping by tonight. It's always great to hang out with you and answer your questions and be a little silly and get that preview on some of the things that will be showing up in the Friday episode. So thank you for stopping by. And this is your buddy Dave over at MarsX3D.